Absolutely. Yeah, I'll kick us off. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I don't know why. I guess because we didn't have the listening session. That's why it feels like we haven't talked to everybody in a while. But in any event, it's good to see everybody. We're excited to be here. For anybody's first time here, we are Control Camp, uh, a community built for independent artists, composers, songwriters who are looking to get their music into TV and film for sync licensing. I'm one of your hosts, Daraj. Joining me are my awesome co-hosts, Eric Campbell and Steph Fink. We've have years of experience in the music industry, and we just wanted to create a space in the community to help other artists and individuals just learn what it takes to succeed in this space. And so we like to call ourselves a very peer-led group. We validate just a lot of voices, and we want to have a lot of voices speak in and weigh in. And even the room that we're doing tonight is a testament of that, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But yeah, we hold these rooms every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we like to bring in special guests from the industry who have this experience with either pitching or placing music, and allow some time to get to know them, what their job looks like, how they navigate the space, and even us as creators, how we might be able to serve and empathize and understand their roles, when it comes to creating our own music for TV and film. So, yeah, join us every Wednesday. We do this, and we also create a time where you can come up, towards the latter portion of our talks to ask your question to our special guest that we like to bring in. So, stick around. And with that said, welcome to the camp. But tonight's room is a little different. This is something we started, I think, a couple weeks back, and it's Ask Us Anything. We're, just bringing people on stage and bringing your questions with you to answer and give, as best a answer we can to whatever questions you might have in regards to this space when it comes to creating music for TV, film, and ads. So, with that said, I'm gonna kick it over to Eric, and we'll try to get this thing started.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, just I love these rooms when we do this, because a lot of times in our rooms, the questions we usually have different music supervisors here every week, and we get into some really cool conversations, but then the Q&A tends to be the last 15, or sometimes we get 30 minutes of Q&A. And so it's really cool when we can take a day like this and kind of just devote the room to questions that anyone may have, and kind of no holds barred. Any questions about sync, about TV, film, advertisements, wherever you are in your career. If you are just starting out, if you have no idea what the term sync licensing means, if you just know that you've heard that you can place music on TV but you don't know much about it, or if you're at the other end of the spectrum and you are getting placements, you're working with agents, or you're pitching yourself, and you just want to have some insight in terms of how to do your business. We're here to just kind of give our own experience. We've brought other people on the stage who can share their experience and their insights. And, in some ways, we're all here learning together. We all have different levels of experience, and we're just happy to share what we have. We don't ever offer anything as like this is the Bible or this is the rules, especially in sync, because sync is always changing. And what worked for us starting, or what worked last year, or what worked 6 months ago may be irrelevant 6 months from now. So the best that we can do is kind of share information together, and just kind of leverage that information to decide how we're going to make our next move. So with that said, let's get some quick hellos from the people on the panel. And if you do have a question, feel free to just put your hand up, and we'll start pulling people up in order. So we said hey to Morgan, we said hey to Mariella. Andy, what's going on?
Hey guys, good to be here again. Sorry, it's just such a difficult time for me to get onto this room, and I love it so much, as you know. So it's great to be back. And Steph, just wanted to say it was amazing to see that Quincy gave you a shout out at the Guild of Music Supervisors Award. I thought that was beautiful. So,
Oh, thank you. It was a nice surprise and shock, I would say. I was actually
it's
texting with
amazing.
Eric Garage.
It was amazing because, you know, you just think, wow, you know, he's given a shout out like that, and it's fantastic, especially him being such a legend. That he really is a legend, as in legend, isn't he?
He really is. And at least for me personally, that's when I realized how humble Steph had been, because in all of our conversations, she'd say, you know, yeah, I'm managed by Quincy Jones Productions, but she always kind of like just says it and moves on and doesn't harp on it, and is like, wow, my friend is like really cool. Like, she's really cool. So it was like, I felt 10 times cooler because I know her just from that moment. So it was pretty dope.
Aw,
Yeah,
shucks,
we're
you guys.
famous by association.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, great
Thank you,
to be back.
Andy.
Thank you.
And Eric and Daraj can attest that I basically almost passed out myself when I heard it, because I think it was in that moment I went, wow, this shit's really happening.
Right.
It was great. Andy, he must have had a bad connection. I'm sure he'll come back. Amy, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me back. I have a bad connection also, so but it's nice to be here. And I agree, Steph. Congratulations. It's you're so humble sitting there week after week on this, and you're amazing. We're happy to be a part of this with you.
Aw, thanks, guys. God, you're gonna give a girl a complex. I mean, I'm blushing over here.
Well-deserved blushes, though. Well-deserved.
Thank you. Well, let's get it. Enough about me. Let's get into tonight. I'm super pumped for tonight because I think, you know, Eric and Daraj and I talk about this a lot. We, like Eric was saying, we have these rooms with all these amazing professionals. We often don't get a chance to have you ask questions, and we kind of get our inboxes full with a bunch of questions, and kind of felt like it was better to recap stuff and, you know, kind of ask our panel for you, and, you know, have you come up and ask questions and kind of be in the topic of Ask Us Anything, since we often have to keep our questions limited to the one thing that we're talking about on that Wednesday evening. So I think this will be fun.
Cool. All right. Let's we got a couple people hands up, so I'm gonna pull people up. Once you come on stage, be sure to unmute your mic, please, and then we'll go from there. All right, got Kate first. Hey, Kate.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm out walking again, as usual. But so my question for the day is a terminology question. I know many of you, and I as well, have alternate artist identities that you release sync songs under when they're in different styles. So how do you refer to these different artist names that you call different co-writing collaborations? Is it an artist project or an artist or a writing collaborative? When you're talking about a specific one by a specific name, you're not a band. You're not going to perform. So what do you call that entity?
Morgan, can I toss this one to you, since you have multiple bands and band names and collective projects? Morgan, do we have you? All right, I'll speak for Morgan until he jumps in. So you can call them any number of things. They can be band names, they can be artist names, they can also be collectives. It's not uncommon to, you know, have collectives. We have the Music Box Collective. We also have like a band name, which is a features project. We call it a features project. We treat it similar to how, you know, DJ Khaled has a DJ thing. That artist project might not be making any actual music, might just be featuring other people. You can also have, I know Morgan has Endway, which is a band that he uses for covers and other projects. Sometimes when he's not doing things as Morgan Dorr, or his band Boys Like Girls, which is a real band. So the answer is it's kind of loose. You know, I want to give you a better answer, but the truth is it's loose. The one thing I will say that's really critical to all these pseudonyms is make sure that all of them are registered properly, and that on Sound Exchange and wherever you're doing that the featured artist name is properly registered, and with ASCAP or BMI or your PRO, that you register all of your names and your pseudonyms, under your legal name as well, so they're all attached to you. Because one mistake that artists make is they make a lot of these pseudonyms, and then it's really hard to kind of find royalties from that. So I would keep them very limited to where you have to, have them only. Try to keep one or two, and then make sure they're all registered properly. That answer?
But for an artist name, you don't actually register that with the PRO. If you're writing under a pseudonym, you would have to register that. But the artist royalties don't go through the PRO. So,
I mean, if you're just doing an artist name, but you should still do it with Sound Exchange if you're the featured artist.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you're writing as an artist name, then
and if I just call it an artist project, people will understand what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
I can add a little bit to it as well. I think Steph is absolutely right. I think as far as, if we're kind of talking peer to peer, group to group, like, I think there's a number of different ways that people talk about their different. I use alias. I say alias a lot. Like, they have different aliases that I go by. I've heard bands, collective, like pseudonames. Like, I think I've only run into like more formal situations where, like, within a contract, there was language that said, as far as an artist alias, they refer to it as a project. And so that was actually new to me. I used project in a different context, but I had to kind of understand what they meant. But it was actually terminology relating to, a different artist name. Like, whatever that artist name is, it may have a certain exclusivity to this particular entity, and they call it a project. So that's the only time that I've butted up against like more formal language, like in a contract or anything.
But that's kind of the same way that I've heard about it is here on Clubhouse, people talking about, oh, we released this song under our artist project such and such, and we released this other kind of music under our artist project something else. And that's the first time I heard it used in that context. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what we're doing. Is that what we're supposed to call it?
There's right. But it's not a supposed to. I think, like Daraj and Steph have said, there's really not a fixed rule here, and a lot of people will use alias. Some will say project. Some will just say I have this different. I released this under different artist names, and so it is not a standard. I don't think you need to feel like that. You have to do it a right way. Whether you call it different projects, whether these are different artists I promote, you can feel free to take your own terminology.
Cool. Thanks.
Cool. Awesome, Kate. All right, next we got Josh. What's going on, Josh?
Hey, Daraj, Eric, Steph, Morgan, everybody, what's going on? Quick question. I might be looking a little further ahead in the future as far as with sync, but I'm curious as to you guys' thoughts on the AI movement that's going on with how they're using computers now to create music, and it sounds pretty darn good. Wanted to know what you thought about that for the industry.
Such a cool question, Josh. Yeah, I'll be interested to hear everybody's views on this as well. I try to pay a little bit of attention to kind of some futurism and futurist stuff. And I think the AI stuff is here closer. I can't remember the name, but actually someone already released, it came out last year. I haven't heard much noise about it, but actually somebody released a project that did create Underscore.
From like Sweden or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. And I would think that would be the first thing, because a lot of that is very formulaic. And, and so I would expect that to be the first thing that someone tries or experiments with, especially now that you have, this kind of ties into what we'll talk about next week with like microsyncs. Now that you have, millions and millions of YouTubers who need Underscore and TikTokers who need, just upbeat emotional stuff, I think that lends itself to something that can crank that out really fast and very generically and very cheaply. So, I think it's definitely coming and probably be here sooner than we think. Will it take away, custom stuff anytime soon? Maybe not, but the Underscore is already there, or at least it was. And I don't know the status of it.
Can I speak? Yeah, I mean, I think definitely underscore and reality TV show stuff. But is it terrifying at the moment for human? Are they going to compete with the humans? I hope not for a long time. I know it's early days in the AI, and I heard some of it. BT was talking about it and how terrified of it he was. But I don't know. I mean, it is going to replace some things, but I think the human soul, it's like vinyl. We never thought vinyl would come back, and it's kind of coming back, and CDs will come back and all this crazy stuff. So people yearn for the real thing, and I think you'll be able to replace some things with AI, and some things they'll deliberately make it sound like it's AI, and that'll become like a sort of genre. But I think it'll just be something that's there.
Awesome. Any other thoughts?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Daraj.
Yeah, I think
Oh, go
also
ahead,
there's
Amy.
an art to songwriting. There's a difference. There's songwriters who wrote the song whether you saw the credits or not. There's a soul and a life in a song, and a great song is a great song. And I don't think that's so easy for AI to come in and replace. Like I think for like the cheap quantity things maybe, but not for the quality songs.
Now, it should. Oh, sorry, Daraj, you were going to say something.
Well, go ahead, finish your thought.
I was just going to say that we already are at the phase now where they have released AI artists. And so there are a couple that I can't remember that are in some of the video games, and that artists that are, and these numbers aren't solid. I'm doing from memory, but that already have millions of fans and get millions of views on their, algorithmically generated videos, and have followings. And so how much harder is it to then take those artists and have those artists doing their own original songs? It's just the next step.
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I'm not very, I'm pretty kind of ignorant to that space, but I think as a more broader, just kind of thought experiment, it just seems like, every generation, there's always something kind of threatening, a certain way that things were done versus, how they, end up being normalized, in the future. And I agree too. I always think there's going to be room for both. And I think as a musician, I hope there will be room for both in a sense where it's still competitive for, the artist to make a living, and, it's just not completely outsourced to AI. But my mind also goes to like, how can that kind of looks like. So I think it'd be a unique challenge for the musician to try to figure out like, how can I partner with new technology and still keep a certain humanity to it, but also not reject a new thing. But again, I'm ignorant to this space, so I don't even know what that could effectively look like and how to even do that. But that's just where my mind goes.
Cool. All right, Eric, what's up next, or who's up next, I should say?
We got Daniel up next.
Thanks for that question, Joe.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I've been enjoying these rooms. It's been amazing. My question is geared to, as a composer, writing mostly instrumental music. My question is about comparing being independent with a sync agent versus working with a collective. And maybe, Steph, you can speak to that side in terms of like a music box or, some other music house. I know you can do both. You don't have to be super exclusive, but this particular agent was throwing like a 70-30 split. And I'm just curious, you can talk about percentages, or you can talk about, any of the business side things that you should look out for or look into, or just comparing the two. I'm really just curious how to move forward in that regard.
Before Steph answers, can I, just for clarity, are you asking about an agent who wants to represent you as an artist because you have songs that they want to represent, or do they want to represent you to pitch custom work for someone, which is a lot of the music houses, and you call them collectives, but a lot of those music houses are around custom work. So is the agent also wanting you to do custom work?
I think it would be both. Yeah, it would be both. So if I had, let's say I gave him 10 songs as like or cues, like as a catalog that he would represent. And then if he got a call about something else, he could also say, hey, do you want to do this custom job? This is the brief, that kind of thing. So it's a mixed, on his side, it would be a mixed vibe.
Okay. Steph?
It's certainly not. Let me say that it's not uncommon for music houses to say we want a 70-30 split. I think that's fucking trash, but pardon my New York French. But super common split for especially New York music houses for advertising, especially. It really depends on what your deal is. A lot of the times those are 70-30, but you have deals where you're on a salary with them or a retainer. Some are just 70-30 and they're garbage. I would say 50-50 is a lot more better. But Duraj and I were having this conversation about a different topic today. And I think what it really comes down to when anyone's taking an administrative fee, or any fee from you, is what are they providing for that work? I think you have to look at each individual company and vet that company and vet that person that's working for you and saying, okay, we're working with you. What is this partner going to do for me to earn that half of my song or 70% of that song? A lot of why it got to 70-30 and so deep in the ad agency in New York is not ad agencies, but the music houses for ad agencies in New York, is because it's actually incredibly expensive business to be in. They have to have insurance, which could cost, now it's like up to $2 million in insurance per incident. And that's like 30 grand a year or more kind of thing. It could be anywhere from 15 to 30 grand. They have to, really schmooze to have relationships, fly to markets like Chicago or Michigan or, New York, LA, whatever. They're flying all over the world to kind of get that business. They're going to Cannes Lion, it's a really expensive business to be in. So the splits are heavily in their favor for that industry. Mostly for sync, though, I would say a good one would be 50-50. And that's for someone who's, bringing you real opportunities, giving you custom briefs, doing a job of telling you, hey, we're going to give you lots of notes and maybe we're mixing things for you, or they're doing other things to, add value there. And they're also administrating that and taking care of legal and everything else for you. So it really depends on each individual relationship, and that's going to be unique to every single deal you do. But my general rule for representation is if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, which means if you feel shitty doing the deal, it's probably a shitty deal. So if something in your gut is saying, I don't feel good about this, trust your instinct and ask questions and try to, accommodate for those things. And I'm assuming they were saying 70-30 in their favor. If it's 70-30 in your favor and they're only taking 30%, that's not bad. But if it's the
Yeah,
other way
my
around,
favor.
then that's good. Sorry. Okay, that's a great deal. Then that's amazing. That's a very favorable deal. But in New York, a lot of them are actually 70-30. And by the way, everyone I know has done deals like that in their lifetime. Even that bad of a split, especially for ad houses. So, even if you're taking 10% from someone, it really just comes down to what value is that person on the other side bringing. Is it opportunity? Is it creative? Is it legal? Is it insurance? Is it lending a hand? That's the question that you have to ask, be it for sync representation or publishing or administration or management or anyone that you might be working with, kind of administrative or even creatively that wants to split things with you. There are a lot of people that will split 50-50 just because they bring you a gig. It's a matter of preference, taste, and willingness to do this. And some people, and I'm not saying it's the right attitude, some people are super happy saying, hey, half of a massive gig that I couldn't get on my own is worth more to me than 100% of the gig I can't get and I get $0 for. So again, not encouraging it, but just so you know, there's a lot of different ways to kind of break that down. Does that sort of answer it for you?
Yeah, it does. And just a quick another part to that. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but if he's like in the publishing side really heavily, so he could do all the administration and all of that. And I'm curious, like, how do you trust when you go to Sound Exchange or all of these different sources? Are you able to validate the numbers that they're seeing if you're trusting someone to handle that side of the royalty end?
I want to call on Amy if I can. Amy, would you be willing to help answer how do you know you can trust a publishing administrator, since Amy works for Sony ATV, one of the largest publishers on the earth?
I'm going to try and get a better signal because I didn't hear the whole question. So if you just give me a minute, I'll try and chime in.
Can I just jump in while Amy's doing that?
Yeah,
I would
go
say
ahead, Andy.
you've got your writer's share of publishing, right? Which you will always be getting directly to the PRO. So that's usually a good representation of what the publishing is going to be for you to monitor it, because they're not taking your writer's share, presumably, in this deal.
Is that right, Daniel?
No, they're not. That's a great point.
Okay, so the question was, again, I'm sorry, Daniel, I didn't hear the whole thing. You had an offer from a publisher or from some other entity?
Yeah, it's a sync agent, so it's an independent individual that is offering sync opportunities if they come across his radar. The question was, if they offer to do some of the administrative side, how do you vet that you're getting what you deserve on the percentage side from them?
How do you know the person who's administrating publishing is doing a good job? Is there a way to vet it going in and then continuously sort of monitor that they're doing a good job?
Yeah, so somebody mentioned looking at the writer's share, and that's certainly valid. That's 50% of performance income, and there's some digital income that goes under the PROs these days also. So I think there's a couple of things here. You have to be comfortable in the relationship you're in and know what you're signing. If you don't understand what you're signing, then you do need to have a lawyer look at it so that you know what the extent of the commitment is and make sure it's something that you can live with. Only you can decide whether that's a good deal for you or not. Definitely, I would say, check your options. How long is that going to be? Because an independent agent is likely to have other agents, and so there can be more levels of fees that you're going to be hit with along the way. So just understand what all goes into that. And like I said, if you don't understand the deal, I would recommend you at that point before signing, get a lawyer or some expert who could read the contracts and guide you and advise you on that.
Oh, Amy, you just brought up the greatest little tidbit there, which is read the fine print. Daraj and I were also talking about this. In admin contracts and publishing administration contracts, you have to read all the fine print. One is, as Amy was saying, sub-publishers and other people, foreign entities or other things that are taking percentages and what happens to your fees there, or if outside agencies get involved. Or even sub-publishers get involved. That's one. Two is the length of your deal and how long they retain your admin rights for, because some of them you can be done and then they can have 6 months, a year, 2 years of collections. It depends upon that fine print. So Amy brought up a really good point. You should always get an attorney to really look at that fine print for you and just make sure you know exactly all the details of what you're going into in a deal, especially for admin. Because once you put your admin rights in someone else's hands, you're basically saying to the world, this person speaks for me on behalf of my music and they administrate. So you're now putting them in control of your destiny, basically. Because if I go look you up on ASCAP or BMI, or if I look to see who wrote a song because I found you and I like you, I'm going to go, oh, this publisher publishes Daniel. I'm going to go contact your publisher. I'm not going to go find you most of the time. I'm going to go find the administrator of that catalog because that's the person I have to do business with. So,
which I think, if I can jump in, Steph, I think that's the reason it's important to really know. You have to have a relationship with whoever. It is a relationship that you're forming when you sign a contract, so you have to know the people you're working with, and you know whether you trust them at the end of the day or not. I mean, if you sign the deal, it should be because they're contributing something that you need. and you're contributing something they need. It's a mutually beneficial relationship, or it should be.
Great answers. Thanks for the question, Daniel.
Thank you.
All right. Next we got Mickey.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Good. How you doing?
What's up,
Hey,
Mickey?
man, life is good. Everything is everything. It's good to hear from you guys. I have a question that's in line with some of the admin and publishing house questions that have been asked, and I think I might have even ran this by Steph in a conversation once before. So forgive me if I'm being redundant, but I just got off a panel with Big Tank, Derek Thornton, and he was mentioning some of his specific, I guess, his preferences in terms of like how he works with artists and trust. And a lot of supervisors talk about how like the trust has to be on the line, because if you're sending them stuff, or if they open themselves up to do business with someone and they don't have their ducks in a row, like you could really be costing that person their career and just messing a lot of stuff up for them. And so in response to all of that, Big Tank was talking about how he just doesn't trust any old independent artist. He has his like 4 or 5 preferred music libraries that he goes to, and or like certain publishing houses that he really rocks with, even if he likes the individual that might be networking or doing business with. He's like, all right, I need to be able to check and make sure that those stems that you're going to send me actually came from you. Like, I don't just want to look at your paperwork and take your word for it. Like, I need to know that I know. And that kind of seems to be a conflict of interest to me from what I've been learning, because I want to be as close to one stop as possible just to make everybody's lives easier. So could you guys maybe advise some steps for people who want to work with someone like Big Tank, how to approach working with libraries and certain publishing houses, and still, as far as goal setting is concerned, how should we navigate that whole thing and still trying to be as close to one stop as possible, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, Mickey. Well, if I understand the question correctly, I think we get this a lot, and we've actually heard. I mean, Big Tank's position is not unique. I think we've heard it over and over and over in this room. Like different supervisors have come on stage and said that while they're open to getting music sent to them and they encourage independent artists, at the end of the day, they work with the people that they work with because they have relationships with them already. They already have business with them. They know their price ranges. They know their budgets. They know that they're not, they know that any artists or composers that they work with are already going to have the music cleared. So I think if you're asking, okay, well, I want to be one stop, which we all do, I think it's also, just realizing kind of how people work. If you want to do business with people, then, it's understanding how those people do business. And if somebody's telling you, hey, if you want to do business with me, and I had a conversation with an advertisement executive that I met, and he's been in this room, and I met him through a conference, had been pitching him music, and he offered to to do a call with me. And on that call, he said, it's very hard for me to do, work with artists because my company requires that all musicians have a certain level of insurance in case we get sued. And so for another reason, I deal with these, sync agencies. And so for me, I know if I want to do business with him, then I need to try to be in business with the agencies that he works with. And at the same time, I'm still building up my sync catalog. I'm still, pitching my things as one stop to those who are open to it. But I know that a lot of people in the industry, I know that that's the barrier to entry for a lot of people. So for one, my position is that we just have to be aware of how things are, and we can operate in how things are, even while we position ourselves, because those relationships that you're making today that, you are in conversation with these supervisors, they may get you a placement tomorrow, but they may get you a placement next year. And so even for next year's placement, you still want to be building those relationships. You want to develop it. You want to get your catalog, but just know that, if speed is an issue for you, if you want to get some things out quicker, then maybe having someone with relationships in place, is how you want to proceed for part of your catalog to get some of the, something sooner while you develop those long-term relationships.
To answer your question about how you do it, Mickey, I think you're already starting to do it the right way. You just have to be persistent. As annoying as that is, it goes back to be a human, build relationships, be patient, and be persistent. So really target the people that you're trying to work with. Basically what Eric was saying is, you want to be able to put different irons in different fires for things to happen at different times, and you have to be prepared for all scenarios. So maybe you're putting some stuff in your Easy Clear catalog yourself, but maybe you're partnering with other people for different opportunities that you're trying to do. I would look to identify the people that you're looking to work with. So if Tank says, I only work with these 5 companies or 5 people or 5 entities, find out who those 5 entities are, and then, start to try to build a relationship politely. And we've talked extensively about how to start to do that, which is be a human, reach out, be polite, be patient, follow up, in a few weeks, not a few days. Just be polite. Try to build a regular relationship with people. And, if you're a human and you're just nice, and it sounds so funny, I know, when we just say be a human, but the people that I take in all the time or that we hire come in as a result of just being chill. It's like, it's a lot for me. We don't onboard a lot of people. There's a lot of people that I love that I want to work with. You've started the process a little bit, and it's like, it takes us a long time because it takes us a long time to build trust with people and to get to know them and see how they handle paperwork or see how they handle if we forget to write them back. All of those things are kind of an accidental audition. So no matter how frustrated you might be in the process, to just be chill. That's the other kind of thing I would do. But, make a plan. And we've talked about how organized Diraj is in this room, and we're all kind of envious of his organization. Eric does this too. Make an Airtable or an Excel, get those 5 names that you're targeting, put dates on them. We have a pitch list. We do the same thing when we reach out to people, just so we're not annoying to people. We go, okay, we reach out on 4/1, maybe on 5/1, I might send a follow-up, but I'm not sending it a moment sooner. So just try to be organized and diligent about that stuff.
And one other thing I'd like to add is I'm a music supervisor, and obviously I love one-stop stuff, but good music's good music. So be honest. And if it is somebody that's a friend of yours or something who owns their own publishing and everything, get an email, get something from them explaining what's going on. You're trying to pitch stuff, because, we're all in danger of pitching something that somebody doesn't own. And in hip hop, it's an absolute nightmare because, to be honest, half the time the people that wrote the songs don't know who owns what. So there's so much confusion and everything. But you shouldn't just limit yourself to one-stop stuff, because your creativity is really important. And if you really have your shit together and you're honest, it goes a long way. Because if you have a song that somebody else is on and you tell me there's somebody else on it, and I say, I want to pitch this is the fee, get an email from this person, let me see it, saying they're going to do it. If that happens quickly, great. So that's what I'd say as well. Just be very organized.
Absolutely, Andy. That's a genius thing. I mean, Morgan's one of my songwriting partners. He's signed to Sony ATV. Amy's a publisher at Sony ATV. She puts me in writing sessions all the time with her artist. But the reason I build relationships with someone like Amy or Morgan is because I have a deal with Amy that I know that she is not going to be a pain in the ass if I happen to pitch something, or if she happens to pitch something. She's confident that if I need to sign something, I'll sign it fast, or give her the right to sign it on my behalf really easily. We're never causing drama for each other. So you can work with other people. Just make sure that those people are easy. It doesn't have to be your Easy Clear. It could be someone else's Easy Clear, as long as everybody's honest about whatever working situation they are. And like Andy said, a good song is a good song. It'll go.
Great answers. Thanks for bringing the question, Mickey. All right, next up we got Adam.
Hey, what's going on? Nice to see you guys. I think I was here last week. I forgot. I just came back to Toronto, so things have been a whirlwind. What's up? I pretty much answered a lot of my questions I had. I don't want to be redundant in here because everyone has a lot of questions. But is there anything you guys would recommend for maybe like a startup or sync agency or like a more low key music supervisor or music supervision company that might accept submissions? And second part of that question is like, can you ever shoot yourself in the foot for reaching out to a music supervisor too early? Not too early, but just with no connection or no plug, because does it just look unprofessional? And that's what I'm really afraid to do. And I know we're talking about all this connection stuff, and I'm really trying to do a shitload of research and not everything's prematurely, because I want to go big. And obviously, like, I believe my music and stuff's good, so I'm just trying to like navigate all that and get the right plugs.
You look unprofessional when you reach out too early. And too early is when you're not ready to be pitching your music. You can't clear it. Your business isn't set up. That's when you look unprofessional, when you reach out from a music supervisor perspective. Other than that, you only look unprofessional outside of that if you're kind of a dick. That's really it. Or if you pitch me the wrong stuff that, you pitch me heavy metal and I'm working on fashion stuff. It doesn't really make sense unless I ask you specifically for that, since it's out of the box. So that's a quick answer to the second half of your question.
I love you, Jess.
Great.
Hey everyone, I'm late.
Hey,
Sorry.
Jess.
What up, Jess? What
Hi,
up, Tommy?
Jess. Love you.
Jess is being super straightforward, but and you would I'm sure there's people scratching their head in the room going, duh, but no. That happens. She's saying that because that happens so frequently. So, pay attention to the brief, deliver what you're asking for, make sure your business is buttoned up, and don't be a douchebag, or don't be a dick, as Jess
Yeah.
says.
I feel like half of the, I guess, like the intimidation of reaching out to a supervisor is just like getting over, like, putting a supervisor on a high horse. Like, just reach out. The only time it's really gonna not help you, the worst that could happen is we say no thanks if you even get an answer. But even if we like what you sent, you mostly won't get an answer because I'm too busy. I'm sorry. No offense, dude.
Yeah.
I got it. And
Go ahead, DeRoche.
okay, and I was going to follow up, and it sounds like we're talking to when we're saying reaching out, it's kind of to the end to reach out and pitch your music. Jess, would you recommend the same thing if somebody is just reaching out to just establish a relationship? There's no pitch. They're just like a fan. They're just kind of trying to get to know you. Is that seem helpful, early on, or would you still wait till
Oh
like
my
everything's
gosh.
buttoned up?
Jared, I have the best story. Is Mickey still in the room? I'm pretty sure that's the same Mickey. Mickey reached out and got me talking about boy bands. And we have been like going back and forth about pop music. Now we're talking about Danny Brown. Literally never once asked to send me music, never asked what I was working on, just like having a genuine conversation. That is the best way to reach out. And like, we literally made a relationship talking about like 90s pop music.
Official
and
Danny
R&B.
Brown buddies.
Yeah, he's up here. Mickey, I was like, that has to be him. But what he did, like, just like this, I don't even remember do you remember what you said when you reached out? I don't even remember, but I was just like, yes. And then eventually I was like, wait, I still haven't heard your music. Send me your music. And he did. And here we are. And now I'm talking about it. And now he's my buddy,
See, that's dope.
Respect.
And
Yeah.
Mickey's
That's like
music
how you
is
do
so
it. That's
dope
the best
too.
way. When we say like treat people like humans, we say that, it comes up every week. This was the perfect example, So there you go. That's
Great
the answer.
questions, great
Yeah.
answer. That's awesome.
Yeah, and note how Jess said to him, hey, oh my God, I haven't heard your music yet. Send me stuff. That's the position you want to be in. You want people to ask you for it. And you'll get there. That's why I said just be patient. You'll get there.
And there's nothing wrong with Adam, I'm gonna put you back to the audience, but thanks for that question. There's nothing wrong with putting yourself out there as building a genuine relationship, even if you're not ready. And if somebody says, "Hey, do you have music?" There's nothing wrong with being honest about where you are. Like, I'm studying sync. I'm putting myself together. I'm trying to get a catalog, and it's not, I'm not ready to pitch it yet, but I'm just trying to learn and make relationships. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing saying that you can't build genuine relationships in the industry you want to work in, even before your music's ready. Just don't be shooting your music all around the place and don't be in pitch mode if you're not ready to pitch. And even if you are ready to pitch, it should be organic is much better than salesman any day. Okay. So it's 8:50. We're going to do a reset in about 10 minutes, but we've got a good queue starting. So let's start now with the questions without any follow-up. Just one question, please. And then moderators, I'm going to ask you to kind of just two responses, 2 to 3 responses, but we got like 5 people in the queue who aren't even on stage yet. All right. Caitlin, how's it going?
Oh, it's going well, thanks. I had a question coming from a band. I reached out to music supervisor. He's like, love your stuff. Do you have anything more current though? So we're working with him on new stuff, but I'm wondering, is there any point in kind of trying for some old stuff, maybe with some other people?
What exactly do you mean by new and old?
So our last release was 2018. So he's asking for something more current from us.
Oh, I guess it's going to depend on what people are working on. Is this boiling down to me and Andy on the soup side tonight? Hey, Andy, by the way.
Hey, Jess, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Good. What's it called? Okay, so for me, right now in my world, I don't care when your music came out. If it fits the creative, then it doesn't matter. But there are some projects who want unreleased music, or more current music if you have a newer single. So it's going to depend on who you're pitching to. That's like on the supervisor side. I can't speak to if you're trying to get cuts on something or like do a co-pub deal or something like that. It might be different.
And I would say same sort of thing. For me, it doesn't usually matter. I work on a lot of indie films, so the film's not going to come out for a while. They're rarely looking for a band that's peaking or anything, or doing really well with their numbers or anything. But in advertising, you see it all the time. Must be an up-and-coming band. They must have, lots of followers here, there, and everywhere. So I would say look around. I think you're definitely safe in indie film. I think in TV, most of the time, you might need one song in a show or a couple of songs in a show that you want to be really kicking ass. But again, if the music's good, it's good, and there's nothing wrong. The 80s is in. There's music's needed from all eras, comes back again. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Does that help, Caitlin?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I was just wondering if it's even worth trying other people for the old stuff, but I'll keep looking around.
Yes, do. Try others.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, what's up, Elaine?
Hey, how's it going?
I don't know if you're coming up with a question, but if you are coming up, I also want you to talk about your event that you have. But if you have a question, you can do that first.
Yeah, I was more just wanting to, I always have a million questions in my head, but I was more wanting to talk about the listening session, if that's cool.
Yes, please do. This is a great time. Okay,
cool. Yeah, my name's Elaine. I took a sync songwriting course with Eric and Daraj like about a year ago. And I co-write with this girl, Justina Chandler. And we created a girl pop group called Jelena. But then we also just started this thing called Sync Music for a Change, where we have listening sessions with music supervisor where musicians write an email to their house representative about an important issue, and then in exchange for that, they get to submit a song. And so we're having our first listening session with Jennifer Mandel, who supervises Major League Baseball ads, and that's on April 29th at 5 p.m. And basically anyone, if you feel like you have a like a sync ready song, and it's like it's one stop, and it is of the quality that you could that's radio ready basically, then you're totally welcome to submit that, and we're looking for submissions. And there is a link to that in my bio, and also in the link tree on my Instagram page. So if you just click through, and the issue that we're writing about is the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. So trying to get people to hit up their House rep and ask them to support that act to expand voting rights. So yeah.
That is great, Elaine. So just to clarify, they should go to the link, and then when they do the submission, do they write the congressman at that time? Do they write before they do the submission? What's the order?
So like it's all super like it's all laid out on the webpage at syncmusicforachange.com. But basically you write an email to your House rep, and there's an easy link to find who your rep is. There's an email template there that you can just copy and paste, and then edit to be more genuine to your own thoughts on the issue. And after you do that, you just take a screenshot of like the final like submit page on the House reps website, and then you upload that screenshot along with your song to the disco link that we have.
That is so cool. What a great incentive to get involved in activism with tying that to being able to pitch to a supervisor. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that was very innovative.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like it's like putting two parts of my life together, which is kind of fun, kind of unifying the things that I'm into.
That's great. I'd be happy to listen to any songs if you want. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. I will definitely send you a message about that, because we were hoping to do it like on a monthly basis.
Great.
Yeah, count me in too.
Yay. Thanks, Jess. Sweet.
Got it. That's awesome.
That is so awesome. And you're always welcome to come back here and just state it and pitch and let the other music supervisors know whether they're here.
Thank you so much, you guys. That's really, I really appreciate that. That's awesome.
And Elaine and Justina are amazing songwriters, singers, producers as well. So go check out their music. They're really, really dope.
I gotta hear this girl band. I'm pumped. Jelena. It's so great.
It's just like, she's Justina, I'm Elaine. We're like, let's be Jelena. And we're just.
Yeah, that's so y'all. Like, I love it.
It's a lot of Pink and girl and pop. It's fun.
That is, I can't wait to hear. I haven't heard of it. I can't wait to hear it because you're both insanely talented.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for bringing that through, Elaine.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Eddie, what's going on?
Oh,
hey, everyone.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, Daraj. Hold on 1 second, Eddie. Let's do a reset first.
Okay, I'll be real quick. Sorry, Eddie. Oh, super random. Did you all know that you can like set your iPhone to like do certain functions on a double tap? Like you can double tap like the back of your phone and set it to do like a screenshot or something. Mad random. I just did it. I was mind blown.
You sounded
I'm a
like
big kid.
you were. That sounded like it was like a Costco commercial or something. I was like, oh, did you know that?
Did you know?
Picked up an ad campaign. You're getting paid on
something pharmaceutical was about to go down. That's what I thought.
I just had to share it because like my mind was blown when I found out you could do like the little avatars on the top of your iMessage. So I'm just sharing the wealth, y'all. Anyway, sorry. All right, we're back on track. Everybody, welcome. We are Control Camp. If you are just joining us, your first time here, we're so glad that you made it. We're a community built and designed for independent artists, songwriters, composers, producers who are looking to get their music into TV and film for sync licensing. I'm one of your hosts, Raj. Joining me are my amazing, wonderful, spectacular co-hosts, Eric Campbell and Steph Fink. We do this room every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we like to have real conversations with supervisors, publishers, licensing agent, composers, all individuals who have just been in this side of the industry for a while. And we like to interview them, understand what their day-to-day looks like, what their job looks like, just to really get clarity on the needs on this side and how to create music that serves the needs we like to proudly say we're, peer led community where we love just to validate and bring in a lot of different voices to speak on. So you'll see a lot of just different guests we'll bring in from our camp, from just on, who are within the industry as well, to help us just talk and figure this thing out and succeed in this space. So we also develop a lot of resources on our website. So if you visit controlcamp.com, if you need to know how to spell it, it's right up in the left-hand side of your screen, ctrlcamp.com. If you swing over to the Sync 101 page, there you'll find some PDF resources we have, as well as room replays from our past rooms and talks that we've had. And they've been really, really packed with a lot of information. So if you swing over to our Patreon, you'll kind of see, just scroll through, you'll see some of the titles of past rooms that we've had, just to see some of the topics we covered. But yeah, if you're really looking to get some additional help, on your journey with creating music for sync licensing, that is a great place to start. Yeah. So with that said, welcome to the camp. If you're in the room as well, we just ask, if this has been an engaging conversation for you, could you please ping some people in who you feel like might find this information useful. We do this room for about 2 hours, and we like to, again, we're here for you all. Like we want to just be as valuable and give as much information as we can to, give you guys the cheat codes on what it takes to really do this thing successfully. So yeah, ping somebody, share the wealth, and again, we're doing a Ask Us Anything kind of night. This is a little different format from what we usually do, but we're going to keep the questions rolling in. So if you have any questions about creating music for TV and film and ads, go ahead, shoot your hand up, and we're going to keep this thing going. Kick it over to you, Eric.
Awesome. This is great. Well, okay, we're in the second half. This is the second hour. So again, we're going to try and move quickly. One question, no follow-up, please. And then after you ask your question, we're going to start to move people back into the audience during the second half, right after your question, and you can listen to the response from the audience. And if we need to bring you back up for some follow-up, we will. But this helps us. We still have, there's still like at least 4 people in the queue right now, and 4 people on stage, or 5 people on stage, 6 to ask questions. So I want to try to keep this moving as efficiently as possible. To all the moderators, we're going to try to keep limit responses for the second half to 2 responses, please. And also, even though you're a moderator, please don't bring anyone on. Let Eric, that's me. Let Raj and Stefan.
You a third person now, man? All right, I guess you are famous, bro.
Right. So let us handle bringing people up onto the stage. And with that said, we're back to Eddie. How's it going, Eddie?
Hey, good. Just wanted to say, first of all, I'm just how much I'm loving this group, and just want to say thanks, Eric and Daraj and Steph, for hosting it. I'm fairly new to Clubhouse, so just trying to get my Clubhouse feet wet here. My question is, I just want to ask, as far as like working with mixing engineers, I've been doing most of my work on my own, and like, how would you give me guidance, or any of us guidance, when we're trying to reach out and start working with new, contacts, and we all know how important it is to build professional relationships and friendships in the industry. But like, what in your experience, like, what are some things you can, some practices, and especially as like maybe along the way, songs will need to be tweaked as you're presenting them to supervisors, or what would you recommend?
Which is specifically for mixing engineers, right?
Yes.
There's a couple of things. I think we actually talked about having another room where we're going to talk about building your team and things to think about. So look for that, I think, in May. I think we may have put that on the calendar already. But one of the things we've heard over and over and over is if you're going to be using someone else to do your mixes, which is often a great idea. The more you at least know about the process and at least get educated on mixing, the better that you can communicate with that engineer, so that you're able to ensure that the vision is staying consistent. One thing we've heard over and over and over that people have problems with is sometimes getting their stems as quickly as they need. So if you're sending your session or to someone to mix, make sure when they give you back that mix, they're giving you the full mix, they're giving you the instrumental, and they're giving you stems, which might just be like the drum and bass broken out, if there are synths or if there's a guitar part or a bass part. Does not the individual tracks, but the stems, because when a placement comes, you won't have always time to chase them down and find it. And sometimes, if depending on your relationship, if they didn't create that up front, they may give you more of a hassle or want more payment or want something to go back into the session. So those are things you always want to ask for up front. That's what I have off the top of my head. Anybody else?
Sure. I can speak to, if you're trying the other part of your question, which is how do you kind of like attract those relationships? And, obviously money is a good one. Consistent work is another one. So maybe you can't afford yet to pay the most to a really amazing mix or mastering engineer. But if you have consistent work for someone, that's really great. Like one of my now closest friends, and Morgan, who's on the stage too, also mixes a lot for me. A lot of times when I'm giving them other things, I will come to them first for better gigs with priority. And then on the smaller projects where I don't have as much money or I don't have a budget at all, I say, can you do me a favor? As long as you're not consistently just asking for favors and you're bringing some value. You can also barter with them. If there's production work that you can do for their projects or anything you can offer those things to them. And then you can also go to rooms like this and say, I'm looking for really great mix engineers and, we're trying to take a collective risk together. And in that case, offer them maybe even a small, some people will agree or disagree. It's always worked for me. I've actually given our really great mix engineers, when I want something to be super polished and I want a real big mix guy on it, I might give them a tiny piece of the writer's pie or the publishing pie, depending on what we're doing, just to make sure that they're taken care of. Because you can't just say, oh, hey, when I win, you win, but you have no back end, so good luck with that. And maybe I'll pay you one day. So that would be my advice.
Great advice. That is so great. I love that. Okay, let me PTR. Motor Girl, got you up next.
Hey guys, this is an amazing room. Eric, Taraj, and Steph, as you know. It's so great to see you, Amy, Jessica, Andy, Tommy, Jess. Oh my goodness, so many people. And great to meet you, Morgan and Mariella. So I was curious about the day in a life of a music supervisor and or a sync licensing house. What do you guys do on the daily? I know you're incredibly busy, and I'm just wondering what you field on the daily. Thank you.
Jess, shall I go first?
Take it away.
Okay, I'm sure Jess and mine's quite different. I mean, I'm freelance indie, so I do anything from so many different things. I read scripts. I basically do cue sheets. I send out license requests, quote requests. I track down songs, who owns a song. I put playlists together. I look for composers. I hit up composer agents. I get showreels in for composers. What else do? I sometimes register songs. And yeah, and you've heard I haven't said I listen to music. I do listen to music, but most of the time I'm doing a lot of paperwork and I'm doing a lot of searches. So yeah, I'm reaching out to pitching houses as well, sending out briefs. Forgot that one. So there's never a second in my day when I've got nothing to do. I try and put things in order. So if I've got lots of quote requests to do, I'll do them all at once, hopefully, because my mind's in that space. I try not to flit around between different things. So I try and compartmentalize things. If I'm looking for a composer, I'll focus on that. But it just never ends, really. And that's basically my day every day.
Andy, before Jess jumps in about her day to day, could you just touch on one thing for our room that I don't think we've ever talked about? Can you tell the room what a quote request is?
Of
For those
course.
who might not know.
Of course. So basically, if I want a song, if I want to use Creep by Radiohead, I find out who the master owner is, I find out who the publishers are. I then have to write a quote request for each publisher and the master owner. Sometimes there are two master owners if there's a sample. So I have to basically account for 100% of the master and 100% of the publishing. I then have to outline what the film is, who the producers are, who the director is, who the actors are. I then have to tell them how long I want to use the song for. I tell them the use, which is background vocal, visual vocal, background instrumental. I tell them the scene description, because if it's a contentious scene like a rape scene, they have to know that because they might refuse it based on that. So I have to be totally honest. And then I tell them the territory, the world, the media, all media usually for a film, and the term, which is in perpetuity. If it's a master owner, I get them to tell me the song credit on the quote request. So then I will usually tell them the price I can afford to pay for this song. I will also tell them the music budget I have for the film and the budget of the film. I then send that to them and they come back and hopefully they agree with the price I've set. If they don't, they cross it out and they give me the price that they are prepared to license the song for. And when I've got 100% of the master and 100% of the publishing, I then have my full quote. So that is a quote request.
Thank you, Andy. I think that is incredibly helpful for our crew to know, because now you understand, now all of us can understand how much work goes into just even quoting the song and all of the different facets of what might affect sync placement happening or not happening. So I appreciate you taking that aside.
And could I also add as well, just because this is the madness of it all, on the quote request, I have to put this on the publishing one, I have to put the songwriters, and I usually have to put their ASCAP numbers. I always want to put their ASCAP numbers because I want to make sure, if I can, that those numbers go on the cue sheet so that the PROs don't lose the money. So, you know, imagine if you've got 7 writers on a song, you've got to do all of those numbers and everything, and the publishing numbers as well. So it's really time, it's, you know, takes up a load of time and you have to be so accurate. And this is why we can't have people messing about with us with ownership, because it's deadly. If I'm 5% out on a clearance for a song, that's not going anywhere and the studio's going to go ballistic. So you have to have 100% and you have to be clear. And that's the work we have to do. So that's why we don't like people, we can't work with people that let us down on the ownership.
That's amazing, and a very good point. We talked, I think, a little bit last week about the domino or the ripple effect that sort of happens when you make a poor decision. We were talking in the context of maybe delivering something late, but it's the same thing in publishing. If you're that 5%, that one holdout for something, or you just weren't organized enough and therefore it didn't happen in time, because a lot of these quotes are timed as well, then you can really, you know, destroy things and destroy relationships like that. So we super appreciate that, Andy. That's a huge asset for us. Jess, you want to talk briefly about your kind of day to day?
I mean, surprisingly, mine's not too far off from what Andy said, honestly. I think the only addition for me, because I guess even though I'm not a studio, I work similar to the studio network side. So I do a lot of development and strategy where my team, one of the brands will say, we want to do this. How do we do it? And so we'll go over what they're trying to do, what they want to present to talent, um, and the legalities around it and all the different options creatively and clearance wise, what would happen to do their creative. I had a lot of those kind of calls today. Um, and then I do a lot of like larger deals on top of like licensing stuff. And I do handle licensing in house too, like redlining and negotiating, which is extremely time consuming. And I try to loop it all together, like Andy's saying too, because you got to be in the right mindset. So it's easier to just like get it out in chunks if you can. But yeah, he covered it all, man. That was it.
Great. Eric, who do we have up next?
We got Daydream up next. Also, let me just say to there's someone I was trying to bring up on stage, Steve Keller in the audience, but either Clubhouse is buggy and it's not letting me. So if you're in the, I see your hands raised too, and I think you saw my invite. So I'm gonna keep trying to bring you up, but I think the Clubhouse is just acting buggy for me. Oh no,
I
he's
got
there.
him.
Hey Steve, I don't know you, but I saw your profile and I was like, oh, Sonic Branding. I want to hear what you do. So I wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Sure, thanks. And I'm walking, so pardon any background noise that might be happening. But I actually work for SXM Media, so kind of covering SiriusXM, Pandora, Stitcher, and we represent all the ad inventory for SoundCloud. And my official title is Sonic Strategy Director. And the best way I can describe that is that I'm in the business of blending sound science with sound art to help our clients make sound decisions. So, kind of, why would you choose that piece of music? Are you ever going to see a return on investment for that? Why would you want to license something? Or would you want to own it? Would you want to have something commissioned? Do you need something from a library? And specifically, as it relates to sonic identity, a lot of those decisions are being driven about by how you're building a brand over time, as opposed to how you're just using music or sound for a short-term transaction, for a short-term campaign. And so I'm here just because I always love listening to you guys and seeing what you're doing and how you're doing, and music supervision is sometimes a part of what I do, what I've done in the past. But at this point, it's more kind of high level, working directly with brands and sometimes agencies on how they can, really make better decisions about their choices for the music and sound. So that's me. Thanks for calling me up. I'm done speaking.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Steve. I really appreciate it. Glad to formally meet you. And I know you're walking, but feel free to hang out on stage if there's a question you feel like you have some insight on, and feel free to jump in.
Can we gotta do a round of applause, and I don't know if this has happened yet since I haven't been on here in a while, but Ryan making the best freaking TikToks is in the room. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Sorry, dude. But I needed to say it. I needed to call out, I love your TikToks. Okay.
Thank you, Jess.
Double kudos on that, on the TikToks. They're really insightful.
Now everybody's running to TikTok really, really fast and back on.
Actually, I saw them on LinkedIn, but I guess they did start on TikTok first.
I appreciate it. I'm just having fun with it, and I'm glad they're being receptive on LinkedIn, more so than TikTok, but it's just a lot of fun, and I hope people learn from them as well.
It's a lot of his TikToks are like a day in the life of a music supervisor, and they're funny, and they're also insightful. So it's really cool. Okay, let's go. So thanks for waiting, Daydream. How's it going?
I'm doing all right. How you guys?
Doing good. Doing good.
Yeah. So I have a question. It's kind of like a grassroots type of thing. I'm in contact with a startup ad agency who's interested in using music, using my music, and then I kind of like introduced the idea of because I have a really good relationship with a videographer, and there are like these types of ads that I saw that he could shoot, and he is interested in it. And I was just wondering what it'd be kind of like easier for them if the video already came with music and everything was all like a finished product just from us. If we shot the ad, add the music, whatever. I was wondering what to have like in place with that. Like, how would they be able to separate the music from the video? I don't even know like how to even go about that type of thing. And these ads would probably be mainly placed on like internet Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, things like that.
Anybody want to take that?
I need it restated. I wasn't totally following, or somebody can restate for me if they were following
I
it.
was going to say the same thing. I couldn't. I was going
Daydream,
to
it,
ask for a
it
reset.
sounds like you're trying to do a one-stop situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, where you had a videographer that that you can do the music and that person can shoot videos and you can kind of do an all-in. Is that what you're asking?
Right.
And you're asking how is the music affected by that, or how you go about doing something like that?
Yeah. How do I go about doing something like that? Like, as far as like what needs to be put in, mostly paperwork, basically, like what needs to be put in place, like what, as far as all of that stuff. I don't, yeah.
There's two ways to do it. I'm not recommending one or the other. The two ways you can do it is you can partner with the videographer, form a little LLC or a little partnership, and say, we're putting things forward as a full service agency with video and with video and music. You can also work side by side and just pitch yourselves as, hey, I got a really great videographer and he likes to use my music, and you can give him access to your music and just license the music to the videographer to be able to cut to advertisers and then give him permission to sell it to ad agencies. Or you can go direct to the agency and just give them the recommendation for, the videographer, which, by the way, it sounds complicated, but it's actually not incredibly uncommon. Like, when we do a lot of my big brand work, comes exactly out of that behavior. When I was working on a music project and we needed, the agency who had hired, they'd hired a brand hired an agency that was like kind of fucking it up. And I said, oh, talk to my buddy Dexton Debery, and he was great, and they're at Falcon, and hire them potentially. They hired them as an agency, and then that agency hires me back for music. So there's a multitude of ways you can do that. You can get them to hire them and then tell those people, and hopefully they do it, to hire you back. Or you can just partner with them. And I've done both, and they both work. It's a nice thing to have. It's a little harder to do, and very, not that frequently common. But if you have the opportunity, it's worth a shot.
Okay. Yeah. Seems like the partner probably might be a little, I guess, attractive in my eyes, I guess, just to kind of have a mutual interest and keep it going. But yeah,
Yeah,
all of those, yeah.
you don't want to jump into a partnership with someone you don't know. You have to build that relationship. It's just kind of a level of, those are all the ways that you can kind of consider doing it. If you know this person really well and you want to, you can. But I would just recommend, most of the time, I think you get what you kind of give. So I would just say, make the recommendation, for the videographer, and say, I have a really good videographer, and just say, hey, dude, use my music when you pitch for these gigs. So hopefully it lands, kind of a thing.
That was great answer. Good question. Let me PTR. I got Ryan up next. Ryan Gregg.
Hey guys, really appreciate the room. Excellent listening to conversation. I got a question about an approach to the business. I recently got a gig on Comedy Central for a streaming service thing. It was a weird gig for a theme song within the show, kind of on a puppet show, back alley thing on Comedy Central. But I noticed that there was an audio production company essentially working with the video production company, which Daydream, I really appreciate, got some of this question answered previously, but was wondering, just kind of approaching the business as far of not necessarily as an artist to a supervisor, but as an audio production company that can offer full service and orchestra, whatever, to a video production company. If you could speak on that. And I apologize if it's kind of a lengthy question, but thank you for your time.
No, it makes total sense. And Eric and Daraj will tell you that's what I do all the time. Like, I actually do more of pitching myself as an executive music producer, or our company as a full stop solutions company more than we pitch any kind of individual song. And that's
Cool.
been a really great business model for us, but you have to really be able to back it up, is what I would say.
Obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you've been in the business for a while, but that's, you surround yourself with really great people because you know that you're only one human.
Yep.
And if you're the key man for that business, meaning, and for our audience who doesn't know the term key man, it means, and maybe we should make a key person these days, it means if that client is reliant on you specifically to do the things, what is going to happen if you're not available, if you get sick, if you can't follow through with something, because life happens. Sometimes we were pitching on something this week. I try to never be the key person, even though technically my clients like to think I'm the key person. But if you get to know our company,
Logistics.
yeah, I have backups for my backups for my backups. Like Eric sat in on even on a Clubhouse for me last week. He was babysitting, kind of a project we were doing because I was double booked on something else. You just have to be backed up. But I think it's a great thing to do. If you can offer multiple services, go for it.
I really appreciate the insight. That's excellent advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Great question. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, Carrie, we got you up next.
All right, y'all. What's good?
What's up? How's it going?
Yeah, good, man. Good to see y'all. I dipped in earlier in the last hour when Eric, I guess you were talking about the conversation with Ladman last week about E&O insurance. And it just, I put my hand up at that point because I've dealt with that a lot. And it's something a lot of people don't understand. So I was wondering, give me 3 or 4 minutes to get on my E&O soapbox so people kind of understand a little bit about what and why ad agencies and brands insist on it.
Well, I don't want to, I appreciate that. We did talk about it some last week and Ryan did expound on it, and I'll probably save it. I don't want to, I'd rather limit it if you have a question now, but I appreciate you being able to just kind of share on that. But we'll probably keep that in mind for another time to really dive into it.
Yeah, Carrie, we're going to talk about it during Button Up Your Business. It's going to be a big topic for us.
Cool. And if you guys get into any of the Sonic branding, definitely keep Steve Keller down there in mind because he's always dropping gems.
Good to know. Thanks so much, Carrie. All right, we got Natasha up next.
Hi, everyone. Oh, my God, Jess, hi. And Jess, really, hi.
I invited Natasha up just as a sync rep.
Oh, hey, Natasha. How
So
are you?
I was like, come talk with us. Have you been in this room before? This is new to you? Should we give you the rollout intro?
Yeah, we got to introduce her. I see a profile. Good to meet you. Now you got to get Jess, give her the formal setup.
Okay. So Natasha and I go way back to ABC Family, Disney Channel days. She is creative sync at Lava Music, a label, and I just got poor connection. I might be cutting out, but yeah, I don't know. Natasha, do you want to tell them a little bit more about Lava?
Yeah, I would. Thank you. Thanks for the beautiful introduction. So I work for Lava Music, which is Lava Records and Lava Publishing. Lava Records is a rock and pop label in a joint venture with Universal Republic. We have artists like Greta Van Fleet and Jessie J and a bunch of, smaller pop artists and rock bands. And then on the publishing side, we're admin by Cobalt, so we work with them, and we're in a partnership with Primary Wave, so we work with them as well. And we have a lot of cool writers on that end too. And that's just kind of the very brief overview of what the company Lava is.
Well, thanks, man, and thanks for letting me just randomly throw you in to the awesome room of Control Camp.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me in.
We're so glad to have you
Thanks
here.
so much. So hi, that's all I wanted to say was hello.
Oh, well, we got 30 more minutes if you're around. Feel free to hang out, stay on stage, and if somebody asks a question that you have some insight on, we'd love for you to jump in.
I will do that. Thanks.
Awesome. Hey, Kyler, got you up next.
Hey, how's it going? So wanted to do a little something for the
artists in the room still trying to figure out sync, much like myself. So this question is actually for Eric, Duraj, and Steph. What I'm wondering is, looking back at your initial success in sync, what were you doing like right before things were working, and like what did you change that led to landing a placement? Like the last lesson you had to learn to slay that dragon.
Nobody wants to jump in. Nobody wants to be first.
I'm sorry, ask one more time. I
Yeah.
Clubhouse was being whack for a second. Can someone recap?
I might have a poor connection too. So looking back at your initial success in sync, what were you doing right before things started working? Like you got that first placement. Like what change did you make that led to that? What was the last lesson you had to learn before things started working for you?
Oh man, I feel like I learn lessons every day. I don't know, Eric. You guys want to field this one?
I kind of feel like that too. If I go back to I'm trying to think what is my first placement. My first placements were through music libraries, and they were through briefs that I submitted through Taxi, and that was at this point that must be like maybe 10 years ago. And so at that time, it was really learning how to write to brief, and it was also learning how to be really. I think for me was getting some systems in place where I could write to brief, where I could be systematic and fast, because I'd actually lost opportunities prior to that. Because I had good music, but I wasn't necessarily fast. And so somebody heard a song that I liked, or somebody heard a beat tape that I had made, and they were like, "Oh, this is great. Can you do this? Can you do that?" And those second requests, I wasn't prepared for. And I lost a good amount of opportunities because I thought, "Oh, let me just make a dope beat tape, or let me just get a cool catalog together." And so when I realized that that's why I lost those opportunities, or lost those relationships, because those people in those relationships hadn't asked, and I wasn't in a position to give them what they needed. And so therefore I lost those relationships. Then I realized that I needed to get faster and get systemized. And so by the time I got to pitching to those music libraries, a brief was able to come out, and I was able to, turn around something, in a shorter period of time. And then when those publishers called, they were able to take the song. But then if they had other requests, I was able to then go back, because getting the relationship is one thing, but building on it by being able to, meet whatever they need. I think that was a lesson for me, because I was always getting the thing that got me in the door, but then not having the thing to keep me in the room. And so once I learned that, things started to change.
My mind just exploded. You had the goods to get you in the door, but not exactly what you needed preparedness wise to keep you in the room, which is huge.
That's probably a snippet right there. we need to mark this and timestamp this right now. That's a snippet for IG.
I keep saying to the guys, like, I want to do a night where we're just interviewing Eric and Duraj, because every time you guys get a chance to actually speak like this, my mind is exploding, and I remember how good at your jobs you are. Duraj, do you want to kind of touch on the question here?
Yeah, I was trying to think. Like, for me, I think the thing that immediately came to mind when you were talking is like not spreading myself too thin, I think. And that kind of goes with um, creation as well as like rep relationships and everything. Even though it's kind of weird because I was very, like I put myself forward a lot, to kind of meet and connect and network with a lot of different agents, publishers and stuff. And it was really cool. But after a while, it kind of got to a place where I had to, really narrow in and kind of focus on who I wanted to work with and not spread myself too thin in that regard. But then also learning how to, just prioritize requests that come in versus my own catalog that I'm building, and just how to navigate through that space. So I think, trying to prioritize, what, where who I'm sending music to, who I'm working with, and what I'm working on. I think kind of helped me to just latch on to what was going to bring about hopefully the success that I'm after. But like Steph was saying, I feel like I'm always learning, so definitely haven't arrived. But those are some things that popped up when you asked the question.
Yeah, that's right. I think for me, it's this business is constantly evolving and changing and growing, and I feel like once you learn it, it adjusts and grows new legs and walks away and starts again. So I think you kind of constantly have to be on the forefront of what is happening, because once you learn it, you kind of have to relearn. So every time I feel like I've reached a part of what I think success is outlined in my mind or kind of on my vision board, I realize that it either A wasn't that, or maybe it didn't matter, or maybe I've reached it, but there's a whole new benchmark. So I think always being prepared, as prepared as you can, always be learning and growing. And then again, I've said this a million times, surround yourself with people who are as smart or smarter than you, so that you can make that evolution happen easier. That's been kind of my trick. I never wanted to be in this business, as much as a jerk thing as that sounds. My husband calls me the only person trying to get out of the entertainment business for the last 20 years. And it wasn't until maybe this year or last year that I finally went, okay, I feel comfortable here. Fine. It's where I belong. So I think if you're doing this job right, it's always maybe a little uncomfortable, so you just kind of, Eric, right? We were talking about this the other day. The highs are incredibly high in this business, but there's an equal and opposite reaction, like all things. And the lows can be super low. And no matter how good you get at it, no matter how many highs you have, and how many wins you have, sometimes when you lose that gig, you're like, oh man, should we all just quit? It's just how this
Real
business
talk.
runs. Yeah, you got to be persistent, and you got to surround yourself with people like Eric and Daraj who can be like, hey, you had a shitty week. It doesn't mean you quit your business, kind of a thing.
So good.
Can I also add to that just real quick?
Go for it,
Sure.
Mariel.
Like you're asking about the one thing, like the last thing that made it happen, and I think it happens because of the journey, and it's more about just showing up and collaborating, doing your research. So, and it's going to be different for everyone, right? So yeah, I think you just keep at it and keep writing and meeting people and doing your thing.
Great stuff, Mariella. That's 100% right. It's going to be the journey is different for every single person, and it's going to change for you along the way too. What you think was super important to you
Yeah.
at a certain age or point in your career, you look back on and you might go, did I care about that? Should I have cared about that? Any of those kind of things. So just keep trudging.
So good, so good. Okay, it's 9:40. We're wrapping up in 20 minutes. In lieu of a full reset, let me just say, if you've come into the room, we are Control Camp. This is a community where we help each other level up our knowledge about getting music on TV, film, and advertisement. And we're here every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Today, we're just doing a Q&A. So we've been answering questions for almost 2 hours, and we're just going to continue with that. So with that, we're going to go on to Jared. How's it going, Jared?
Greetings, everyone. It was more like I just wanted to let everybody know from the other side of, since I'm not a music sync license or anything like that, it's good to hear from people who's on the other side who's actually trying to strive and get it, and just to let people know that that's in the crowd right now, that it's like Steph always says, just be a human, because a lot of the opportunities I got were just based on relationships, and somebody said, hey, you never asked me for music, just like Jess was talking about with Mickey, and these people was like, yo, let me hear your stuff. And so just having those relationships, being accountable, and having that quick turnaround time is pretty much what people look for. And if they can count on you, you'll set that reputation for yourself. So that's just me on the other side, who's actually a pitcher for a producer and music writer and so forth. So
Thank you for sharing, Jared. Really appreciate that.
for sure.
Very
Thank
cool.
you for having me.
All right,
That's cool, Jared. I just followed you, actually. I didn't have you. And see, if you put yourself out there, there you go.
Hey.
Now I got you.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
All right, and we got Alex up next.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Thanks
How
for
you
the
doing?
room. I love coming in here every week, so I really appreciate all the information. I have a notebook full from listening. I had a question about, and you guys kind of touched on this earlier with different projects. So I'm pretty new to sync. I typically do more Americana kind of house concert stuff, and now my music's shifting more towards an indie kind of sync themed style. Is there a benefit to starting a different project for that? Is that a situation where you guys go to the SoundCloud and you listen, or, Disco or whatever, and you're like, well, this works, but here's all this other stuff that's almost country Americana.
You ask, what I think you're asking, and correct me, is does it look weird or does it mess up your brand if you're saying you're this and then you have music in other formats or other genres? Was that going to throw people off? Is that what you're asking?
That's a much better way of phrasing my question. Thank you.
Okay, no, it's a good, really, really good question. And so, like you said, this goes back to, so for one, I have music in multiple genres. I have hip hop, I have alternative rock, I have some things that are a little more singer-songwriter. What I've done over the years, I've kind of put all of those under their own artist name. So I just have different aliases. If they're collaborations, then usually I'll work with a group of collaborators, and then if we get a sound that we like and that we notice that supervisors like or it's getting signed, then we'll put a band name behind that, come up with some type of branding for it. And so I tend to be an advocate for branding things individually. And so if you are like as an artist, I think if you're pushing yourself as a songwriter and you perform and you produce, I think there's different ways you can do this. There's a lot of people on the stage who have some different opinions too, especially people who work with like developing artists or putting out artists. I think from a sync perspective, you could think about like putting an alias or doing things in different names so that you as the artist who performs, who goes around and tours, has a consistent, image and brand, and then other music that you make can be part of your catalog, but maybe have it under another name. Anybody have different thoughts on that?
I would say do it only if you have to. So I'm taking a different approach. I think if Eric touched on something important. If you're in danger of maybe being too far from the brand you're building as an artist that you've established because you're touring and things like that, like so you're doing the singer-songwriter, house touring thing, and maybe you're doing like a hard rock, completely different thing, then I think it's really good to have a different project or things like that. Or if you're branching out into like a completely like boy band pop thing, it's just a big departure from what you're doing. I would absolutely say it's a good idea. But I am going to take the position of whenever you can be an artist and be true to who that is. And, maybe you're doing sing songs, but they're under that artist name. And even if they're a little bit of departure, try to be the artist. It's a huge, huge, huge strategic advantage to be an artist these days. Even though we shouldn't be penalized for it, a lot of companies and music supervisors want real artists. Some things like that are literally mandating that. Sometimes as simple as we don't care if the song fits, it's good. Sometimes it's we really want to see an artist attached to it. And we also sometimes we want to break the artist attached to it, right? Especially in when you're talking about women and BIPOC creators now, people want to take responsible for launching those careers of those artists. So it's a huge strategic advantage to be an artist. If you dilute your own brand by doing too many pseudonyms and things like that, that's the other side of it. But I would save it for, like Eric said, if you have a departure from your real artist project. But if it doesn't offend you and it's not too far, I highly recommend you kind of keep it all in-house as one thing.
Great perspective. I love it. Okay, let's keep it moving. Oh, we have not talked about the after party, but if you're a member here, at 10 o'clock when this room ends, we open our after party room, which is an unmoderated or less moderated space. Anybody's welcome. We don't pull people up to the stage. As soon as if anybody who wants to talk, you just raise your hand in that room and we pull everybody up on stage, or anyone who wants. And we don't talk music. We don't talk sync. It's just really for people to get to know each other. If you want to see that room, if you want that room to be visible in your hallway, then you have to be following Control Camp. So above my image on Clubhouse, there's a green house right next to the word Control Camp. If you click on that house and hit follow, then you will be following the camp, and then the after party will show up in your hallway, and you can come and get to know us all a little better. All right, Mark, how's it going?
Good, brother. How you doing?
Very good, very good.
I love this room. You know that. Uh, okay, a lot of my questions got answered, but I haven't one. That's should be pretty easy. It's just how long do you think you see with the people you work with as supervisors that when they come in, just starting out, how long does it usually take them to land their first placement or decent placement?
Are you saying for composers or for supervisors?
I'm asking the supervisors on behalf of composers like myself how long I should expect to land a placement. In general, I know somebody might get the very first song is placed. Others people wait 5 years.
Let me
But
throw
do
that
you
to
see?
let me throw that to Jessica Rawati, because she's here, but we haven't heard from her yet. Jess, you there? Or maybe not. She may be away from her phone. All right. Any other soup wants to tackle that?
I'd say, I mean, are you composing score or are you composing songs?
Oh, he went down, but let's take it from a song perspective. It's for songs.
Okay, if it's for songs anyway.
I'm doing songs predominantly.
Okay, well, I would say, how long's a piece of string? I mean, I've managed bands that I've tried to get placed, not when I was supervising, that I was certain were going to be perfect for sync, and it took 5 years or something, and then you just never know, really. I mean, I've found songs that I've thought are perfect end title songs, and I've pitched them so many times, and they've never been picked up. So it's really impossible to say. And I always tell people, really, you're really in it for the long game, because there's so much synchronicity. I mean, I call it synchrodipity, because it's synchronicity and serendipity all in one place, where it's just got to be exactly right. If I'm pitching 10 songs to a producer, to a director for one scene, I've probably listened to over 100 songs, and I might add one or two songs that I'm not sure I really particularly love them, and I'm not certain they fit the brief. Well, they do fit the brief a bit, but I'm just not, I'd kind of leave them out, and I send them, and one of those is the one that they go ballistic over. So there's so much, everything's totally subjective. What I think about music, somebody else might think totally differently. So there's no way of saying it, but I always tell people you've got to expect it to take a very long time. There are tons of briefs flying around. So if you're with companies that are getting these briefs, you've got a much better opportunity. And if you're doing music that everybody else isn't doing, you've got a better opportunity. But it's impossible to say, and you just never know. If you think a band has a really syncable sound, and that's what a supervisor will look for, and that's what these pitching houses will look for. And if you've got a syncable kind of sound and it's slightly different from other things, you've got a really good chance.
Yeah, Andy, I love what you're saying. And by the way, I have said many times, like, everyone who signs on with us gets the same speech. Please don't, we're a small company. Please don't expect a placement right away. It's going to take a long time. You're going to win only one in every 15 gigs, or if you're lucky, whatever. But Eric, Diraj, and Herman, all, which never ever happens, all won on a first out with us. That has never in the history of my life had that happen. But I will say Eric won on a first one out. We've also lost some too, but he won on a first one out. And then Diraj won on a first one out. But here's the fun part. sometimes when you're doing things for advertising or animation, they're just really long projects. So Daraj won months ago. It hasn't come to fruition yet. It will, but it's going to take another 3 months before this ad, figures itself out. So, it's a very hurry up and wait kind of business. And I think the string thing is, a really great analogy because one never ever knows. But Herman also won on the first one out, and now he's on another project with us. So, you never know. But I would say, just like the weight loss commercials, these are not typical results. But, I'll shamelessly say, keep coming to Control Cam. Maybe we're all learning something,
I'm just picturing me meeting Andy as a new composer and excitedly saying, "Hey, I'm glad you love my song. So how long will it take for me to get a placement?" And him saying, "I don't know. How long is a piece of string?"
No, Eric, with you, I'd say, because Steph set the bar really high, I'd probably have to say two opportunities.
It truly is one of the best answers I've ever heard. I'm still in that from you, Andy. I promise you I'm still in it. I give you credit.
Can I rudely ask Andy something, since we don't always have him because of the time zone? Andy, for those in the audience, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, if somebody wants to reach out to you as an artist, how would you like to receive communication?
Okay, so first thing I would say is I really hate, like I'm sure every music supervisor does, being rude to people and not answering emails, but it is impossible often to answer emails. So you somehow have to catch my eye, and it has to be in between one of those gaps in what I told you I'm doing throughout the day. I need, if you need to be genre specific for me. If you do Afro funk or Afro punk or Afro beat, say that. Tell me if it's one stop, because I can Google that later. If I need something specific later, I can Google that. If you sound like Massive Attack, if you sound like Justin Bieber, I want you to tell me that. But I do want to know if it's one stop, because these are things that I'm going to look for. I've often gone back and thought, somebody sent me some traditional music from the 50s that was kind of R&B. Where is that? And I Google it, and there it is in my Gmail. It comes up, and it's like, hallelujah. Then I hit those people up, and I get back to them. I'd also say, if you're sending music, send 3, maximum 5. Don't send one song. How am I going to remember what on earth that is unless it's the greatest thing I've ever heard? I need to hear 1 to 5 songs to give me a flavor. I may not listen to the whole thing. And I don't mind people emailing, because if you found my email somehow, I'm not offended by that. I kind of am quite impressed by that. I heard on another thing that somebody once said, the advice they gave was, don't ever cold call a music supervisor. It's rude, right? And I wanted to put that on a t-shirt because it's ridiculous in a way. It kind of is, but we're people. We love music. We're looking for great songs, but it's how it stands out. And it does help if you've done a little bit of research. If I have got a show, have a look. If it's a TV show, see if there's a scene you loved, tell me. Tell me that you think your song would work brilliantly in a scene like that. I'm not looking for praise. Oh, wow, this guy's a fan of mine. But I want you to, if your music's good and I can use it, I want to use it, but make it easy for me. So make it the email. I need to know genre. If it sounds like something, say that. But make sure it does sound like that thing, because again, I met somebody on one of these things and I mentioned Jeff Buckley, and he said, my music's often been likened to Jeff Buckley. And for some reason, I wanted him to contact me afterwards, and he sent me his music, and it sounded like Jeff Buckley. And I've worked with him, and we've been doing loads of things together. So again, as everybody else says, try and find a way to personalize your meeting with me, because it is very difficult for you, but make it so that I can search for what you have. Sorry if that was a long answer.
No, it was great. You're always giving great stuff, Andy, while we have you. Eric, who do we have up next?
Down to 2 more. We got Rags and then Yanni. Rags first.
Well, hey, everybody. This is really a great room, and thank you to Tommy for recommending it to me. It's really terrific. The I have a quick question, and that is referencing the earlier conversation. If you do get a placement, and then they come right back to you and say, "Hey, what else do you have for blah blah blah?" What's a reasonable turnaround time?
Can you clarify when you say when you get if somebody places a song of yours and then they come back to you and say, "Do you have any more
Right.
of the same type of music?"
Right. Someone was speaking earlier to the fact that when they first started working in the field, that people would come back to them and they weren't timely enough in getting back to them on a second one.
Gotcha. So what's the yes, that was me. So what's the expected um what should you what's the bar or what's the expected turnaround time for being able to create more songs? I think there's different levels for that. So there are different kinds of briefs. So some companies will send out long-term briefs where you have like 2 to 4 weeks to work on something. And I would say that's probably maybe the minimum in term for that. Maybe getting into like music libraries. A lot of times, you get a relationship with different libraries, especially if you're doing like production music, and they might be trying to put a collection together. And some of those library owners are looking to people who can create instrumental cues, but maybe a batch of songs, maybe a batch of instrumental cues within a week's time or 2 weeks time, or do full songs within, a couple of weeks turnaround. But then the other end, there's, production houses or music houses or, end client supervisors who are putting a call out for a type of song, and they may have, a few days to a week to get a song turned around. And so they're looking for someone who either already has deep catalog in that thing or somebody who has the ability to turn that around in a matter of days. So I think it depends on kind of, what field you're playing in. But I think personally, it's for me, I was trying to get to the point when I started of being able to create those instrumentals, in a matter of days, as opposed to taking, a month to pull together one song.
Eric, you're being incredibly humble. The gig that Eric won for us, I had a meeting at 4 p.m. with the Rocks company, $7. They had hired us on a fix-it project by that afternoon, and Eric turned around a option or two for me by, I think, I don't know, 8 or 9 o'clock my time. So less than 5 hours, 4 hours. So, and he won it. So sometimes it's even shorter than that. I think it's, mostly ridiculous to ask people to do things in a couple of hours, but the good ones usually can and will. So the faster you can work and the more efficient you can be and the more prepared you are, I think is the answer to that, because there's very few times that you get a long lead for most, things in this business, unfortunately.
Very, very true. Although I will say that before we get to Yanni, I will say that I mean, from where I'm standing, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, Steph. But it seems like there's two paths. There is the people who want to play in that custom, bespoke work where field where speed is everything. But then there's also the catalogers, and then there's a place for catalogers who are like, I'm an artist. This is my style. I'm going to just keep doing this types of style. Do you feel like those people still also need to be ready for this on-demand 24-hour, 72-hour turnaround time, or can you make a career being a cataloger?
Oh, I think you can make a career in any part of this music business if you're, smart enough. I think you can absolutely be a long-term catalog person. But I think even the best catalog people we know, Koichi would be a really great guy to answer this question too, because he makes a lot of sounds and instrumentals and things like that too. But even those guys can adjust things super fast. So you might be a catalog, person, but then they'll be like, oh, can you, stem this out? Can you adjust this? Can you, make this different for me? Can you shorten it? I mean, so the second part of that I can tell everybody because it's out now, but Zoa that you did for us, not only did you turn it around, so maybe it was something that was sitting in your catalog. Let's pretend like that for a second. I came back and said, can you put, I don't remember, a melodic guitar in the middle of that? I gave you a note and you turned around that note really quick. So you might have had that in your catalog ready to go, but that night at midnight airtime, you're still turning around a note, So I think you just, if you can be prepared to do it, you're, much more likely to succeed. But there's definitely, I mean, I've made money in the weirdest ways in this business. So I think you can do just about anything consistently if you're good at it.
Very, very dope. Yeah. That one was created totally custom, but I there are things where, something works. You already have something in the back, and you just need to be able to get access to it. It's another reason why it's important to have all stems and have all your stuff so you can make changes to it.
Yeah, we oftentimes keep things in our catalog or retread things that were made for something else that we pretend are new for people. Because sometimes the turnaround times are insane. So the more you can kind of bank up that was built to somebody else's brief that is right is also really helpful within reason. You don't want to just work yourself, for no reason. But it's good to be organized about the songs that you are creating, using, and that don't go for things, so you can hold on to them and repurpose them. Or maybe you take a bed from something you created, or just the drums from something that didn't go. So you're not always starting from scratch.
Yeah, Gildy said something which I have not incorporated that I want to incorporate, but in terms of workflow, and I'm going there just because I think it's relevant and helpful, that he takes a lot of time and just every time he has an idea, he just creates a bunch of loops. And so he may be inspired to work on something where he might hear a reference. And so when somebody comes to him and says, hey, and he works on a lot of last minute deadlines, and he does a lot of 24-hour, 72-hour turnaround stuff. But he said the majority of the stuff that he's doing, he's able to go back and pull up an idea that he started or did a rough skeleton to some other time that's perfect. And now he just has to finish that. And I thought that was a really cool workflow to have for somebody who's going to stay in this world.
100%. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about being prepared. I mean, I had the privilege of watching Herman work in a writing session this week with Annalise and I, and he screen shared with us as he's like building a track as we're going, because we didn't have enough time to like build the track before. He was kind of building it as we were going, and just seeing his arsenal of sounds and stuff that he had all laid out and prepared, he was really able to cut tracks on the fly as I was going, can you find this? Can you put this in here? Can you do this? And he was really just flinging it fast. And Annalise, who is an amazing, composer, writer, producer, mix engineer, all the things, who you'd think would be ultimately always prepared, she was just like, man, you watch someone else like that and you realize, like, I need more sounds. I need more loops. I need more things. So it's like, that's another really good tip. Ivan, who's with KZ and Ivan Lefevre, he's an amazing producer, does the same thing. He spends a lot of time with other producers on Twitch, learning, growing, working with other people. I think, collaborate with other people so you can learn from other people, and be as prepared and squirrel away as much as you can. Sounds, loops, repurpose your productions. As the more efficient and organized you can be, that's how I think you win the music game. Either that or be Rihanna, but it really comes, if you're not that artist, be really efficient, really organized, because there's a lot of people with really great music and a lot of really great talent. The business side really does come down to, are you organized? Are you persistent? Are you, able to handle your business? Can you deliver?
So great. So great. So many good insights. Yanni, you got the last question of the day.
All right. I feel honored. Extremely edifying conversation here. And I think the last, piece of what Eric and Steph, you guys were talking about, is kind of relevant to what I want to ask. But just for a little bit of background, my history is as an artist, and I've synced, I've synced or sunk. I don't know how you say that. Uh, a handful of tracks over the years, maybe 10 or 20, I don't know. Just, through my publishing admin and stuff. But I made, for the last 20 years or so, I've made most of my living, I guess, ever since Napster and then the streaming companies. I've made most of my living touring, and then the pandemic hit. So I kind of freaked out, like, all right, what am I going to do? And started doing some compositions for commercials, like, I guess, scoring, which was new to me, starting in 2020. And I've had some luck with it so far. I've landed maybe 5 commercials or something like that. And I guess my question is related to the last thing you guys were talking about. It's basically, how do I get a brief? And the turnarounds are always super quick for this stuff, maybe a day, you know? How do I, like, stay calm, and like, and get in the moment and get the stuff, and produce the stuff, in a swift manner, but while still leaving it modular enough for changes. Because I'm finding that, it's just, there's constantly, like, maybe 5 people per project coming at you about different changes that need to happen and stuff. So yeah, my question is really about, I guess, workflow. Like, I'm basically, for this stuff, for my personal music, artist stuff, it's all really real instruments, and we record on, tape and stuff like that most of the time. For this stuff, I'm in, like, Native Instruments complete control, and really trying to just bust stuff out with samples like that. I have not gone to Splice or anything like that. But I'm just wondering what you guys would recommend in regards to that, staying calm and getting the thing done quickly while it's still remaining modular. What do you guys do? Sorry, I was so long-winded.
No, I'll jump in on this one, and anybody feel free to chime in after me. I think there's a few ways you can approach it, and I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, where um, just having, the type of output, if you're wanting to submit for briefs that come in, where it's not uncommon, where there's a 24 or sometimes even less turnaround time. Typically it's a little harder to kind of get those. It's not impossible, but if you're built for it, you have the team for it, you're flexible and kind of nimble enough to really execute at a high level, like to be able to put quality together in a short time frame. um, then it just positions you to be able to be ready to submit for those type of requests. Another way of doing it is just having catalog and songs already ready that kind of anticipate the request before it even comes. And so, I mean, that's one of those things. I feel like I think there's times when you can, kind of try to create for brief, and sometimes you don't win it, but that song ends up being, ready for something else. Actually, what's her name? Jessica Gramuglia, when she, supervisor with Condé Nast, she had a request. I had a song that I pitched. It landed really quick, but that song originally was for a whole nother brief that we did, which was like that brief actually had a little longer turnaround time. But even still, it didn't land there, but it landed really quick for something else. So typically, when there's a request being asked by one supervisor, there's a probably high likelihood that it's just an in-demand, type of song for other cases or for other supervisors. And so that's one thing I would suggest, having a team and, quick enough output to be able to attack, you know, a brief when it comes with a short deadline. And in addition, being able to just build catalog that anticipates those kind of requests. So you don't have to scramble to create all the time. So that's my thought.
I think that was perfectly said, Daraj.
Awesome. Great questions. Great answers. Thank you to all the mods on stage. And Steph, Daraj, want to say anything? Take us to wrap us up before we transition into the after party? Anything we need to say?
Drinks on Steph.
I'm here for it.
Now, I'll just say, man, I'm always appreciative of. I mean, one, we did the Ask Us Anything, and we just had a real strong, I just panelist moderators up here just giving their experience, just insights to help. And we had a lot of questions that came through as well. So I know we had more than what's on stage now, but Mariella, Andy, Tommy, Natasha, Jessica, like we really, really, really appreciate you all. Giving us a bit of your time and educating the camp that we have through here. So we just want to acknowledge you and thank you, and hope you come back. Some of you always come back, but
Love you guys.
Yeah, this is such a positive stage. You guys are doing a magnificent job. It's a real honor to be on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Andy's always great on these clubhouse rooms as well. Morella, I didn't get to say hello to you, so hi, Jess, Natasha, Steph. We had a good talk today. I guess I'll see you guys after the party. Garage, Eric, thanks so much.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
guys, I also want to say thanks to all the regulars, Kate and Katie and Mickey and Kyler and Alex, Jamie, John. I need like that song, Herman, that thanks everybody. It's so great to see you, everybody. And to all the new faces in the room, it's super nice to see. I see Marshawn Kerner, who I met in another room. Like it's really nice to see. Oh, and Amanda Tabor, we didn't get to talk to you tonight. We wanted, I'll pull her up in here. You guys should all stalk Amanda. She's an incredible lawyer. She might not jump up, we'll see. But, thanks to all the experts and thanks to all of you who keep coming. Just remember, as Daraj said, this is a community and these are all opinions and our experiences. There's no one path to being successful in music and or sync. Everybody's story is going to be a little bit different and everyone's perspective is going to be a little bit different. So try to keep your heads up and, stay persistent and stay happy. That's my closing argument.
I see Deborah Fisher down there as well. She's big in the sync business. That's somebody for you guys to get on these stages one day as well. She's super, super helpful. And thanks to everybody that reached out with me about my mom's death. That was amazing. This room showed me so much love. So appreciate you guys.
Oh, your family, Tommy. We really appreciate you. Let me just, Natasha, just so you know, you're always welcome back here. We're here every Wednesday at 8 o'clock and then also Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. We do every other week, and we'll be there this Saturday, but every other Saturday we do a listening session where people can play one song and that they want to submit for just sync opportunities or just have reviewed from a sync perspective, and we give feedback. So any of you are all welcome to come back and lend your opinions there if you're ever free.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me up here. I know I didn't really contribute much, but I hope to in the future because it turns out as I give answers to people, I actually learn more about what I know and what other people say. So it's this is a really cool room and thanks so much for the opportunity.
You're so welcome.
We're excited to have you, Natasha. We're always really excited to see women doing their thing in this room. So we're pumped. All right, let's go talk about grilled cheese, shall we?
All right, we'll see anybody who wants to come hang out. We'll be in the after party. Follow the camp if you're not already, and it'll show up in your hallway. We'll see you there. Thanks so much, everyone.
Good night, everybody.